In the dim glow of 1,000 screens, the news fractured the night like a starburst of shattered glass. Breaking, Xiao Zhan's new film features a character named Yibo, director says. It's an homage to Lost Brotherhood. The words scrolled across feeds, igniting a wildfire in the hearts of fans who had long clutched at the embers of what once was. You, scrolling through your YouTube dashboard late into the velvet hours, felt it hit like a wave crashing against the fragile shore of your chest, a reminder that some bonds are etched so deep into the soul, they bleed into fiction, refusing to fade. This wasn't just a headline, it was a whisper from the universe, a poetic elegy for the friendships we've all lost to the relentless tide of time, fame, and unspoken fears. And in that moment, as your thumb hovered over the play button on yet another fan edit, you wondered, what if their story, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's, wasn't over? What if it was just beginning again, in the flickering light of a silver screen? The film, titled Echoes of the Untethered, was announced on a rain-slicked evening in Beijing, the city lights blurring into halos like tears held too long. Xiao Zhan, with his eyes that held the quiet storm of a man who had danced on the edge of oblivion, stepped before the cameras at the press conference. His voice, soft as the brush of silk against skin, carried the weight of unspoken symphonies. This role, it's not just lines on a page. It's a mirror to the fragments of us that we leave behind. The director, a wiry visionary named Li Wei, leaned into the microphone, his words laced with the gravity of a confession. Yibo isn't a name chosen lightly. It's an homage to Lost Brotherhood, a tribute to those rare souls who walk beside you through the inferno, only to vanish into the smoke. In this film, we chase what was, what could have been, and what the heart refuses to release. You paused the clip, your breath catching like a bird in a cage. How many times had you felt that? The ache of a best friend drifting into silence after college, the ghost of a sibling's laughter echoing in empty hallways, the slow unraveling of a love that promised eternity but delivered only echoes. Xiao Zhan's gaze through the screen seemed to pierce your own solitude, as if he knew the quiet wars we wage alone at 2 a.m., replaying old texts like faded Polaroids. This story, you sensed, was for us, for the viewers who built shrines in comment sections, who cried over edits set to "Not Today," who held onto the myth of unbreakable bonds because our own had cracked like autumn leaves underfoot. The film opens not with a bang, but with the hush of dawn breaking over a forgotten mountain village, where mist clings to the pines like lovers too afraid to let go. Our protagonist, Lan, played by Xiao Zhan with a vulnerability that strips him bare, awakens in a bed of woven reeds, his fingers tracing the empty space beside him. The camera lingers on his hand, calloused from years of wielding a sword in shadowed rehearsals, now trembling as it ghosts over the indent where another body once lay. Lan is a wanderer, a guardian of ancient scrolls that whisper secrets of immortality, eternal life, but at the cost of memory. He has wandered for decades, his heart a hollowed gourd, parched for the rain of recognition. And then, in the film's first mind-bending sequence, the world tilts. It's a scene that defies the laws of gravity and grief. Lan steps into a crumbling temple, the air thick with incense and the metallic tang of regret. As he unrolls a scroll, the ink bleeds upward, defying the page, forming tendrils that coil around his wrists like black vines. Suddenly, the temple walls dissolve into a kaleidoscope of mirrors, each reflecting not his face, but fragments of another life. In one, he sees himself as a boy, racing through sun-dappled fields, hand in hand with a shadow, dark-haired, fierce-eyed, laughing with the wild abandon of youth. In another, they spar under lantern light, sweat-slicked and breathless, their breaths mingling like forbidden poetry. The mirrors multiply, a labyrinth of what-ifs, until Lan reaches out and shatters one, only for the glass to reform as a portal. He steps through, and there, on the other side, stands Yibo. Not a man, but a specter woven from starlight and sorrow. Played by a newcomer whose eyes echo Wang Yibo's unyielding fire, sharp as a blade, soft as embers at dusk, Yibo emerges from the mist like a dream refusing to wake. He's clad in robes of midnight blue, embroidered with silver threads that pulse like veins. "Brother," he murmurs, the word a thunderclap in the silence, "you've come to claim what's owed." But Yibo isn't flesh, he's the echo, the lost half of Lan's soul, bound by an ancient curse that severed them in a past life. Their brotherhood was forged in the flames of a war that demanded sacrifice. One to live, one to linger as memory. Now, in this fractured realm, they must navigate the veil, a surreal expanse where time folds like origami, where mountains walk on spider legs and rivers flow upward into the sky, carrying the regrets of the drowned. You lean closer to your screen, heart pounding as if you've stumbled into their world. Who hasn't chased a ghost like this? That friend from summer camp whose number you dialed 100 times, only to hear the flat line of disconnection. The scenes unfold like fever dreams, each one a poetic gut punch that leaves you gasping, relating so viscerally it hurts. In one, Lan and Yibo race across a bridge of woven clouds, the wind howling elegies of their shared past. Below, the earth is a mosaic of shattered memories, playgrounds where they built forts from stolen moments, stages where they synced breaths in perfect harmony, only for the applause to drown out the cracks forming beneath. As they run, the bridge unravels thread by thread, forcing Lan to grasp Yibo's hand tighter. "We were unbreakable," Lan whispers, his voice cracking like thin ice. Yibo turns, his eyes, those eyes, twin galaxies of unspoken longing, locking onto Lan's. "No, brother. We were human. And humans, we bend until we break." The film's poetry seeps into every frame, Li Wei's direction a symphony of shadows and light. He draws from the well of Xiao Zhan's own silences, the pauses in interviews where his smile falters, the way he speaks of old friends, with the reverence of a monk reciting sutras. In a mind-blowing interlude, the duo enters the memory orchard, a forest where trees bear fruit not of flesh, but of forgotten conversations. They pluck an apple, and it bursts open to reveal a holographic storm, projections of their youth, dancing in the rain-swept streets of a city that never sleeps. There, young Lan and Yibo share a cigarette under a flickering neon sign, the smoke curling between them like a third presence, intimate and illicit. "Promise me," young Yibo says, exhaling a dragon's breath, "that if the world pulls us apart, you'll find me in the stories we tell." The hologram flickers, and suddenly, it's the actors themselves, Xiao Zhan and the stand-in Yibo, mirroring the scene, their faces inches apart, breaths sinking in a rhythm that blurs fiction and truth. The camera spins, a whirlwind of petals and pixels, until the orchard dissolves into a vast ocean of ink, where they swim through words, lyrics from songs unwritten, dialogues from dreams half-remembered. Back in the real world, as the trailer's snippets flood your YouTube recommendations, you find yourself weeping into your pillow, the kind of tears that come from recognition too raw to name. Remember that night with your own Yibo, the one who knew your fears before you voiced them, who stayed up till sunrise dissecting life's cruelties over cheap ramen. The one who faded when life demanded they choose paths that forked like lightning. Xiao Zhan's performance in Echoes becomes your proxy, his Lan a vessel for every ache you've buried. The film's narrative weaves deeper, pulling you into a labyrinth of loss that feels achingly personal. Lan and Yibo's quest leads them to the Heartforge, a cavern where emotions are smelted into weapons. Here, the scene explodes into something transcendent, mind-blowing in its audacity. The walls are alive, pulsing with the heartbeats of every betrayed bond in history. As Lan forges a blade from his guilt, memories of arguments left unresolved, nights spent scrolling through old photos instead of reaching out, the cavern erupts. Rivers of molten silver, tears of the forsaken, cascade down, forming statues of fractured pairs. Soldiers clasping hands across no man's land, lovers parting on rain-lashed platforms, siblings waving from opposite shores. Yibo, ever the anchor, presses his palm to Lan's chest, and time rewinds in a vortex of light. They relive their severance. A battlefield where arrows whistle like accusations, and Yibo falls, his blood staining the earth crimson. "Live for us both," he gasps, but in this echo he rises, pulling Lan into an embrace that defies death. Their bodies entwine, not in romance, but in the profound poetry of souls intertwined, brothers in arms, guardians of each other's light. The cavern trembles, statues crumbling to dust, and in the chaos, a single truth emerges. Brotherhood isn't blood or oath, it's the choice to carry the weight when the other falters. Yet the film doesn't shy from the shadows. In a sequence that will haunt your dreams, Lan confronts the weaver, a crone with threads for veins, who spins fates from the gossamer of what-ifs. She shows him alternate tapestries, one where Yibo never left, their lives a tapestry of shared sunrises and quiet confessions under star-strewn skies, another where resentment festers, turning laughter to ash. Choose, she hisses, her voice a chorus of lost voices, your voice, perhaps, echoing the regrets of calls unmade. Lan's choice is a blade to the heart. He severs the thread of reunion, dooming Yibo to fade, all to preserve the purity of their memory. The screen fractures into 1,000 shards, each a portal to fans' own stories, flashes of your life, or so it feels. A graduation hug that lingered too long, a road trip where songs became anthems of invincibility, the silence after a fight that stretched into years. As the premiere night descends, Beijing's theaters pulse with anticipation, a sea of light sticks waving like bioluminescent waves. You imagine yourself there, squeezed among the devotees, your heart a drumbeat syncing with the crowds. Xiao Zhan arrives, his presence a quiet supernova, flanked by whispers of Wang Yibo's absence, a deliberate void, Li Wei later reveals, to honor the homage. In the afterparty, under chandeliers that drip light like honeyed tears, Xiao Zhan shares a glass of baijiu with the director. This film, he says, voice thick with the poetry of restraint, is my letter to the wind. To the ones who shaped me, then slipped away like smoke through fingers. His eyes, shadowed by the weight of 1,000 unspoken goodbyes, meet yours across the imagined room. It's for you, the viewer who comments, "This healed me" under fan cams, who finds solace in the myth because reality's edges cut too deep. The story spirals onward, Lan's journey a odyssey through realms that bend the mind. They enter the whispering dunes, where sands sing laments of parted paths, grains shifting to form faces of the lost, mouthing pleas in languages forgotten. Yibo teaches Lan to listen, his fingers tracing runes in the air that summon illusions. A carnival where they win prizes of pure joy, Ferris wheels lifting them above the world's cruelties. A library of infinite shelves, each book a chapter of their untold adventures. But the dunes betray them, swallowing Yibo in a sandstorm of doubts, whispers that echo real-world trolls, the venom of rumors that once poisoned their bond. Lan dives in, clawing through the abyss, his screams a raw ballad of desperation. When he emerges, cradling Yibo's fading form, the dunes part to reveal a horizon of auroras, dancing lights that paint the sky in strokes of emerald and violet, a celestial apology for every goodbye unsaid. Deeper still, they reach the eclipse citadel, a fortress suspended in perpetual twilight, where shadows hold court. Here, the film's pinnacle unfurls, a duel not of swords, but of souls. Yibo, his form flickering like a candle in gale, challenges Lan to face the Eclipse King, a manifestation of fear, cloaked in the hides of abandoned promises. The king wields a scythe of silence, each swing erasing fragments of their history. The first shared glance on set, electric as a storm's prelude. The late-night drives where confessions flowed freer than wine. The quiet mornings when coffee steamed between them, a ritual of unspoken trust. Lan parries with a shield forged from laughter, echoes of inside jokes that once bridged chasms. The battle is a ballet of brutality and beauty, bodies twisting in zero gravity, the citadel's spires crumbling into nebulae of dust. In a twist that shatters expectations, Yibo turns the blade on himself, offering his essence to empower Lan. "Take me," he breathes, "and carry our light." Their union is cataclysmic, a burst of radiance that engulfs the king, revealing him as a mirror, their own reflections, distorted by time's cruel hand. As the explosion fades, they stand amid ruins reborn, the citadel blooming into a garden of eternal spring. Petals unfurl like pages of a healed diary, inscribing new vows. But the homage cuts deepest here. Yibo begins to dissolve, his particles scattering like fireflies into the dawn. "Brotherhood isn't possession," he says, his voice a fading melody, "it's the scar that proves we lived." Lan reaches, fingers brushing ether, and in that touch, a final vision blooms, real and real entwined. Flashes of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, off-screen moments leaked in grainy videos, a hand on a shoulder during a grueling shoot, eyes meeting across a crowded press room, a shared nod that spoke volumes. The boundary blurs. Is this film or memory? Fiction or the truth fans have pieced together from crumbs? You clutch your phone tighter, tears blurring the trailer's end credits, where Li Wei dedicates the film to the Yibos in all our lands and the lands who refuse to forget. The story lingers in you like incense smoke, curling through the chambers of your heart. It's relatable in its universality. The brother you lost to distance, the friend whose texts grew sparse until they stopped, the part of yourself you shelved for survival. Yet it's mind-blowing in its scope. These scenes, these realms, aren't mere spectacle. They're portals to our collective ache, rendered with a poetic ferocity that demands you feel everything.